Take a minute and chill with us. It's worth your time. I say what's on my mind. I just wanna make a change in your life. Take yours with mine too. We can rebuild the true conversations with Dr. Creative.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be here tonight for another episode of Conversations with Dr. Creative. And I have a great special guest with me tonight. But I'm going to wait a little while and just see if there are going to be, if I can get just a few more people up on this chat. That'll be great. Don't forget, when we have these conversations, the main point of it being creative, Conversations with Dr. Creative, is to actually have your input, have you guys talking. If you guys can hear me well, just put in the chat, say, I can hear you, Malachi. You're looking good, friend. Say hello, whatever it is you want to do. So I know that you guys are actually here with me. And then we get started. So wait a few minutes. Little pre-conversation. I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. Things are going good. I completed my first, well, not my first, but another term of my classes. Did pretty well, so I'm feeling pretty good. And start back to another term on Monday. So keep me in your prayers. All right. So I see we have some people here. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction of my friend. Once again, if you guys can hear me, if you're on the chat and we're going to have these conversations, please just say hello. Also, share. I need to do better at actually putting those things on here. So, this is where you guys can find me. Share. It's on all the platforms. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So today I have the pleasure of having my really good friend, Yvonne Lee, who is a podcast host. She is a model, entrepreneur, a mom, a healthcare professional. She is really great at, seems like, everything. She's also an author. Book is coming out very, very soon. One of the most creative people I met in a very, very long time. And she always seems to have an opinion on everything that we talk about. So that's why I think this conversation is going to be really, really good. She's a mom. And I think that's going to really benefit the other side of the conversation, as me being a dad, and her being a mom, and us being able to share our experiences or our opinions or advice on this topic. So let's go ahead and get started and invite the wonderful, the beautiful Yvonne Lee to the chat. Hey, boo.
Hey. Hi, guys. How are you doing tonight? And Dr. Creative, you were too kind with that introduction, but I love it.
You are everything to me, okay?
Oh, you're everything to me.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, then we're going to go ahead and start on the conversation.
So I am Yvonne Lee. My most important role is I am a mom, which is why I'm here tonight. I'm a mom. I am a podcaster, as Malachi told you, and I am an author. My book is dropping 11/11. So I'm so excited. It is a whole you, and it's about helping people tap into their unconscious mind so that we can change their lives. And he's right. I do a little bit of everything. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. So that is me.
Wonderful. All right. So let's go ahead and get started on the conversation. So this conversation came from us talking. I think we went out to eat or something like that last week.
Yes, we went to brunch.
We went to brunch and we was brunching, baby.
Yeah.
And we be talking about all kinds of random stuff. And then we was talking about, the access that the children have today compared to what we had back in the day. We were talking about if we ever had the birds and the bees conversation.
Yeah.
We were talking about how this new generation, they're way more expressive than we ever was. And is really big on identity and things like that. And we're trying to navigate ourselves around what it means to be a parent to these new generations.
Yes.
And then realizing like we was raised without any real instruction on how to one handle these
Oh
conversations.
my God. Yes.
And then I don't remember ever having the birds and the bees conversation. I know my father sure didn't give it to me. My mom, I don't think that. I feel like it was implied in like some of the things she said,
Uh-huh.
but we never sat down and had a conversation. So I would love to figure out like how we can tackle those things. So I think first, let's just talk about how do you have those conversations about the birds and the bees? What's the right age to talk about it? Because for me, I have a 14-year-old son, and my son has access to everything through a phone, right?
Yeah.
So there are some things that back in the day, and this is not saying that my son does that, but I'm thinking this is why I have child protection and
Mhm.
stuff on my son's phone. But the reason why I did it is because you can go on your phone and look up whatever you want.
Yes,
Back
you
in the
can.
day, back in the day, we had to have the black box and go through the last channel to see where we could see a little something. Go to your dad or your uncle's house. That they have a little magazine or a little video. And
Yes.
record the bad boys right to the right spot. You know, you had to really work to see something a little
You
extra.
did. You did.
Oh,
You
but
had to be up
now
late too. You had
what
to
you
be
say?
up late.
You had to be up late.
HBO, late night HBO. I remember
The BET show. What was that? BET After Hours.
BET Uncut
Uncut. Yes,
had the graphic videos.
baby. And I used to be like this. Okay, booty shaking everywhere. That was my thing. So yeah, that's the way we had to go about how we were doing our thing, right?
Yeah.
But this new generation, they don't have those issues that we had. So my question to you as a mom, and then I'll of course add in one,
Mhm.
how do you have that conversation? And then two, how do you feel about the amount of access and how do you police that when you're also a working mom, you're moving around, you're creative. I'm a working dad, I'm a creative. How do we do that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think the conversation is definitely necessary. Of course, you and I both know that coming from where we've come from and how we had to navigate on our own, so to speak. Um, I think it's a conversation I personally feel that you should have as soon as puberty hits. As soon as those changes start happening in the body,
Mm,
acne for the boy, the voice change, all these, once the hormones start rolling,
ugh.
because that's when you start to get all those feelings, I would say, honestly, in this day and age, maybe fifth or sixth grade. I have
How
a
old
sixth
are they in the
grader.
fifth grade? Like 11?
Yeah, like 11, 10, 11, 12. I think that wasn't something that we had to do, but I think that age range, I know 10 sounds pretty young, but just because of the level of exposure that they have, and like I said, the hormones of puberty seems to be kicking in much earlier nowadays, and I believe that's because of just all the hormones and the food. If you see, these younger children are really developing early.
Ugh.
um you know my daughter's developing, and it scares me.
Yeah.
um but I think that 10 or 11 is really the age where you have to have at least the basic conversation.
But what is the basic conversation, right? Because I feel we are in a day where I don't know what basic is. Basic
Mm,
to me was Malachi. If you put your penis in somebody's vagina, you're going to have a baby. And that was basically it, right?
yes.
As for now, there are being like sexually fluid and knowing that you're pansexual, that you're non-binary, all those things are just everyday things to my son's generation, right? So
Yeah.
then these are topics I have no clue about. I've done research and things like that, but I'm not a part of that generation, nor am I part of that
Yeah.
community of those type of labels and things like that. So how do we teach the birds and bees to that? Because I think the story of the birds and bees has changed. The
It
birds and bees
has
is no longer just the birds and
drastically.
bees. The birds and bees is the birds and bees, the worms, the cats and the dogs, along with the birds.
Yeah,
It's all
it's
kinds of stuff.
drastically
It's
changed.
yeah.
I think for me, I know what I consider basic is being able to say, hey, listen, at this period in your life, you are going to start feeling some things.
Hmm.
And your face, I first want to at least be able to tell my daughter, like, listen, it is normal to feel attracted to a boy, of course, we, like you said, there's so many other things, but I just want to say, like, it's normal to feel attracted, because I feel like my parents didn't. I almost felt shameful that I was starting to see boys differently. You know what I mean?
So, what do you think? What do you think is why do you think that? I'm going to speak for the Black community. I can't speak for everybody in the Black community. I'll speak for my community where I'm from, and I'll say it's not normalized. And I feel like if we were to have these conversations about sex, about the process, or even just about protecting yourself, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had my first son when we conceived her when I was conceived him when I was 18. Prior to that, though I heard around town about protection and things like that, I never had like the mom son conversation about protection. And prior to my son, God blocked a lot of things that could have been my way. Okay.
Yeah.
I could be Joe Jackson up in this picture. So I wonder what is it that makes them not feel what made our parents not feel like it's important to share. And why haven't I necessarily sat down and have it? Like I have friends who are my age who cry and don't know how to even speak about these things with their kids because they're so afraid of their children shutting down and not sharing nothing else with them.
Yeah.
Because we're in that time where it's extremely sensitive.
Oh
So
my
what do you
God,
think
it
the
is.
purpose of why do you think our parents really didn't have those conversations with us? And you
Well,
guys
they
in the chat
came.
can talk about this stuff too. Like y'all can speak up. You got
Yeah,
to,
speak up. We want to hear your thoughts. So
yeah.
I do have to say that they came from a different generation where everything was censored. So they grew up, right, with, even when it came to television, they showed even married people, right? Like if you remember, I don't know, this is gonna make me sound old, but the Lucy show, the Lucille Ball show, right?
Yeah.
Her and her husband, you seen where they slept in separate beds in the bedroom. Or
Hmm.
even I Dream of Jeannie, they grew up in this generation where everything was censored, right? So I have to imagine that their parents didn't have those conversations with them, and it was the norm. Like, this is something we don't talk about. We don't talk about sex. It was kind of almost taboo to be having conversations like that. And so I think that's why they didn't have that conversation with us, because the world that they grew up in was very different. I remember, and I grew up in the house with my grandparents, and they had a lot of kids, right? They made a lot of children, but I never seen them be like openly, like, had that PDA. The most I would see them do was like hug and all that, but they kept everything very censored, very on the low. And so I think that's why our parents didn't have those conversations, just because they didn't grow up that way either.
And I think another thing is that I find okay. Here's a question for you: at what age was you able to say that I have a boyfriend? At what age?
um, when I went away to college, I think
Wow.
when I was 18,
Okay.
that's when I was able to say I got a boyfriend, and it was semi accepted.
So it's different now, right?
Yeah.
So that the kids are sneaky. I had fear of my
Mhm.
mother, so I wouldn't dare bring anybody to the house or any of those things. But I still was a little sneaky, but I didn't have as much access as these kids have
As
nowadays.
the kids, yeah.
So I think now, like I had a situation where my son was like young, talking about, "Oh, I have a girlfriend." Like, a girlfriend? She's your friend. Like, she's
Right?
it's not your girlfriend, it's your friend. And because I feel like they start to want to be mature, but
Mhm.
in reality, they haven't even had the development to even put that in place and say that they are, you know?
Yeah.
But here's the part that I think is the difference between my parenting and my mom's parenting. I listen to my son, and
Mm.
I try to keep things open and ask direct questions because kids nowadays do not.
You got to be direct.
Yeah, if you don't ask direct questions, they're not going to answer, and you can get your answer from them without them answering their question when you ask a direct question. They'll give you a pause. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, you know. So I listen, but my mom never created a space where she really wanted to listen, and I don't know if that did justice for me or if it did. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I am raised with a lot of respect. I definitely respect people around me. I know how to hold myself in public, things like that. But the parenting style of my mother was, and
Yeah.
I can't, you know, and my son has never received anything like that from me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of my trauma as a youth, or if it's that I'm a weak father, and
No.
that comes.
No.
You get what I'm
I
saying though?
think,
Like you feel
yeah,
like,
I get why
are
you
you
would
a
do that.
father because I'm not, you know, disciplining the way I need to discipline so that my son don't fall into the steps that I fell into. Like, so that's why I think this conversation is important, because sometimes you just don't want to lose that relationship with your child, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that what plays a part, I know specifically I feel for like yourself and me. I mean, I was a little bit older when I had my daughter. I was 25, but that's still young. You know what I mean? Like, you and I are not so far removed from our children that we still remember, it's still fresh in our minds on what it was like when we were a kid and we had opinions and we had questions that, like you said, we didn't get answers because our parents didn't create that space. You know, we came from a time where children were seen and not heard. You know what I'm saying? It was, you listen to me, you're a kid, you stay in your place. And I
Mhm.
think you and I can relate and say that we know what that was like. And so we're trying to just change the narrative so that we can give our kids a voice. And I don't think there's anything wrong with allowing your child to speak freely. I mean, it's respectfully, of course, but freely and candidly, because they need to be able to have those conversations with us versus their friends. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So we have some comments in here. So let's see. We have one from Lovely. Isn't he handsome? My parents talked to me about sex. They talked
Mhm.
about condoms and the importance of protecting myself. I think they implemented that because they grew up in a very censored household. I can understand that. Also, my parents exhibited PDA in front of myself and
Mm,
and brothers. They felt it was important for us to see. That's good. You're a
that's
black
great.
man. He's a
So,
black
can
man,
Lovely
and this.
and Malachi, am I able to ask him a question? I really like what he put. So I am curious, how do you feel like your parents going about it this way? How do you think it benefited you when it came to sex?
Absolutely, that's a good question. Let's see if he responds. Michael Twitty. Oh, Michael. Hey, friend. I never had to put my hands on my two boys, even though I've had the hand, the belt, the switch, the hello. But I learned
Me too,
we
Michael.
had everything. Okay, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Like I had the works, and I'm
Oh
fine.
my God, me too.
I had the works. Okay. Learn to have open dialogue with my boys of a contemporary discipline style. I know that's right.
Hmm.
Let's see. Understanding male sensitivity, expression, and feelings. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. I mean, I think it is like a learned thing from generation to generation. Some of the
Yeah,
things like I would never do that to my child. And I think that that's where the conversation and being more touchy feely and loving with our
yeah,
kids have started. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. You know, and I have a point to make to that. Um, we have to realize with people in general and our parents, not that it makes an excuse for them, but they were really doing the best that they could do with the resources and knowledge that they had, right?
Right.
So now we have so many avenues, even when we talk about information being at our fingertips because of, the phone and the internet, right? If we have a question, let's say we don't even have somebody, a confidant to speak to, we have access to go on to Google. And there's websites like, what is that? I think it's Quora, where you can ask questions and receive input. They didn't have those avenues. So they literally were just trying to mirror what they either seen their parents do or their peers doing, and kind of was winging it as parents.
I think, and that's true. And I get to now, and their parents did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Their parents definitely winged it, definitely created their own whatever to make it happen. I think Lovely responded to your question. Do you want to read it? Can you see it? Do you want me to read it?
Yes, I can see it. So Lovely said that I was less promiscuous because of it. There was less of a need to be as promiscuous because they didn't make sex seem forbidden or bad. That's amazing. More so that it is a mature decision with positive and negative consequences. Lovely, you had amazing parents. Kudos to them. And I'm so happy to hear that, it affected you in such a positive manner because, to the point that I made earlier, I felt like shameful feeling a way about a boy because they did make sex seem like it was like a bad or forbidden thing.
Yep. And hold on, I want to go back to Michael's thing. My boys thought I may do something crazy to him. Yo, when I tell you, Mike, my son, I didn't never have to touch my son that way, like hit him. But all I gotta do is give my son the look, the mama look, which I got from my mom. That look is real. You hear
It
me?
still works,
That
huh?
look is real. I had
That
to give him the look, or I just deepen my voice a little bit, and he'll be like, let me not play with this dude. We have another person, Isaac, my friend Isaac. Hey, boo.
Hey,
Um,
Isaac.
it's so interesting. My dad started talking to me about sex early on, and it made me cringe. But it was a conversation I didn't know I needed. I would
Mm,
love to know, what was it about it that you needed? What did you learn from those conversations? Because I think I would have cringed too if my mom would have talked about it. But then I would have actually heard her voice in my head with every mistake and every decision I made. That's
yeah.
why I think it's important to have those conversations, because regardless if you don't want to hear it, you still hear. Like when your mom yells at you, "Don't you leave that towel on the floor? Don't you lower that seat in the bathroom? I don't want to sit down and fall right through it." Those kind of things. You hear those when you go into the bathroom. I still hear it today. Like when I go to
And
somebody's house, especially a female's house, I make sure that the toilet is clean. I shut
you
the
put the lid
toilet.
down.
Yeah, because I don't want y'all to fall through the toilet. So I would have heard my mom's voice the entire time. So yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to know exactly, like, what was it it made you cringe, but that you felt it was necessary for your adulthood. Um, but yeah, so I don't know what an appropriate age for sex is. I'm so traditional, so
Hmm.
I feel like if I would do it all over again, while still being able to have the same son that I got, because I love my son, I would have waited into marriage. I would have thought that I would have realized, like, sex is so much better when you love the person and the person is actually connected to you, right?
Yeah.
Active sex can be fun and thrilling, especially at a young age, which was for me. You boom, boom, pam. You realize, there's something to you. You have a great finish, and you call it a day. Um, but for me, as I look back over the years, like all the things that I've done, it meant more to me, and I really feel like I really felt what real loving felt like when I was in love. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so I think
Yeah.
that's one of the messages to send to your children. Um, that's something special that you save for the person that you love. You don't necessarily have to be married. Now that maybe just be my old traditional mind, but make sure that that person that you decide to give yourself to is someone you would know forever, like someone who's not going to be in and out of your life just for what they
Hmm.
wanted.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you, Malachi. And in my circle, or the women, or the girls that I was around, like I was late. And it's not even late, but I was considered late as losing my virginity. I was 19 years old the first time I had sex. but all of my friends had been doing it from like 13, 14, you know what I mean? And to
Hello.
be honest, the only reason why I did not do it is because I was deathly afraid of my mother.
I know that's right.
And every time I was put in a position, I could hear her, just how you were saying you could hear your mom.
Uh-huh.
I could hear my mom very loud in my ear. And my mom is little and feisty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she got them short people syndrome. I'm sorry if there's anybody in the chat that's short. But you know, short people be feisty, and my mom was. And I was like, listen, I don't want no problems with my mama, so I ain't doing it.
Oh, dope. We have another comment from our friend. I think it's Scotty Sims. Um, I try to keep the friendship separate from my parenting, but I get discouraged because yes, I'm your friend, but I want my don't to be, I guess,
But
uh, not to, don't to be able to come to me. Again, I want my son to be able to come to me about anything, or children to come to me about anything. The lines get blurred when parenting because when laying down the law, it sometimes confuses the two. I just want
mm,
my son to be able to come to me and be comfortable with me rather than hide all the lies. Absolutely. And then you made
yeah,
another comment. My mom always talks to me about sex. She always taught me how to protect myself and made me feel comfortable that's what I want for my son and me. And my mom are the best friends. Okay.
mm,
So I think to sum up what you was trying to say is you have to make sure you don't blur the friendship and the parent and son relationship, or the parent and child relationship, but try to keep an open conversation, open line of communication, so you're able to actually be included in the updates of what's going on in your child's life. And I think
yeah,
that I'm right there with you, Sims. It's important for me to be there to. I won't say I'm my son's friend because we're not friends. I'm your father. Never be
hmm
your friend. Always will be your father. Which is another level of that's the old school in me, right?
uh-huh.
Which is which is a level of a level of friendship. There's some friendship in it, there's some relationship part in that title of being a father. But I would never be that person for my son. I will always be the protector, provider, an ear to listen to, and someone who can come to get some great advice. But I'm not hanging with you to hang with you and party and turn up and child, let's talk about these girls and let's go out and do this together.
Yeah,
That's not, and I know people who have parents like that. That's cool for you, however you live your life, live your best life. But I'm not going to ever have a beer with my son or any of those things. It's just not what I've been
yeah.
raised.
So Malachi, I have a question for you, and you know, you can start it off, and for all of the male viewers, because I felt like there was a difference between the way my mother talked about sex with me, or not even talked about sex, but the way that she presented sex to me versus how she presented sex to my brothers. So, do
Mm,
you feel there is a difference? Like, I
mm.
know you're a boy dad. Would you have that same conversation with your daughter? Will it be different? Will it be the same? Like, let me know, because I feel like
Yes.
there's a difference.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't care what times and days we're in. Okay, with my daughter, we're talking about it ASAP. Once you get your little red dots on your underwear, we're talking about it, and we're gonna go forth about it. You're gonna know exactly what's gonna happen to you. You're not gonna be able to survive. I'm not like it's gonna be. I don't know what it is about that. My mom even talked about sex with my sister differently than she talked about sex with us. Like even today, she still doesn't bring it up in conversations. Like she just bypasses everything. But for me, for me, for us, I'm more inclined to say, "Hey, mom, how's your date? Did you do a little song?" And she'd be like, "Boy," but she would never have those conversations now with my sister because it's still that level of this is my cherished little girl. These are my
Yeah,
boys, and men's are gonna be men. Now, is that right? It's not right. But in reality, that's just how in my culture it's been. We have a lot of
yeah,
comments. We have a lot of comments. I don't want to miss them. So let's go ahead down the road.
that's good.
Um, you want to talk about Isaacs, or do you want me to go?
Sure. So Isaac said he just had those detailed convos with me, overly detailed conversations about sex, HIV, etc. And it made me sweat, but it definitely made me more aware and more cautious. because I knew I didn't want to let him down in any capacity. Oh, Isaac, are you talking about your dad? That's
Yeah.
so sweet. I love that.
And I think it's
Um,
important that you said something dope. Talk about HIV. Talk about the things that happen from sex. Those things scare. You know what scared me?
what?
When I was inside like sex class and they showed you like what like all the diseases look like.
Gonorrhea and stuff like that. Yeah.
That was like,
I
all
think
right,
they showed like the worst case scenario on purpose
yo,
to
and I
like
needed to
scare
see
you to
that though.
death.
I needed to see that. Let me see. Michael said, I am honored that my son still confide and asks for dating advice. My youngest, 26 years old, and the 32-year-old is happily married. That's dope.
That
Michael, I look
is.
to you as father because you are dope. And not only are you a dope father, you're a dope human. You are just amazing all around. I love your spirit. We have a lot of comments. Let me keep them going. Want to read this next one?
Sure. So we got Kylie, and she said, I feel like with me and my mom, that's my best friend. I tell her everything. Oh, and it took time for us to get there. But my mom always says that you also learn from your children,
Hmm.
as well as them learning from you. But when I say best friend, I will always be respect there, but we definitely hang out and have fun together. But that's just our relationship. Oh, Kylie, it sounds like you have an awesome relationship with your mom, and I love that.
Yeah, Kylie. And when I say best friend, like I'm not like I of course I would hang out with my son and do like fun activities. I travel with my son. I go on dates with my son because I want him to know how to treat his partner. So the way that I treat him, I don't have a girl, so I try to model how I want my son to treat the people that whoever he chooses to be with, whoever that is. So like we get dressed up. We go to a 5 or a 4 star. We have conversation. We don't have our phones out. I model what I want him to treat somebody else like, so that there are more men out there who show chivalry, more men out there who
Mm.
just can take the lead and be comfortable in their lead. So I get you on that, but
Yeah,
I don't want to be his best friend.
yeah.
Um,
I don't
we
want to
have
be
some
my
comments from
daughter's best
Gary.
friend, but I can say that I can, as you know, I've grown older, speak to my mother becoming more of my best friend. Now that I'm grown, I'm out of her house.
Mhm.
And now, because I understand as a mom what it's like, now
Right.
I'm able to relate to my mother in a different kind of way. And we can have conversations. And, I do talk to my mom daily about the things of life, but that wasn't always the case growing up, because you're young and you feel you know everything. But of course, I'll always respect my mom. She'll make sure of that for sure. But we do have a level of friendship at this point, in our lives. So Kylie, that's awesome. What else you got for us, Malachi?
Am I here? Are we there? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, great. Let me make sure everything's okay on my end. Can y'all hear me? Okay, I think so. So we have Gary. I can go ahead for this. With my mom, she was open to talking about sex, especially with female presenting persons when I was a teen. I was so embarrassed, but I will say that it taught me, parentheses, to an extent, parentheses close, to be responsible in my sexual interactions. Gary, that's good. And you said some other stuff. Sex is comprehensive, especially when it comes to boys and girls.
Mm.
It comes to queer sex. Boy, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's up that your mom talked freely, and I think you put emphasis on the female part. I think for a lot of moms, when it comes to the son, their biggest scare, I don't think it's necessarily like the sex part, because they expect for us to have sex because they was also having sex when they were younger. I think that they just don't want to have no grandbabies coming in the house.
Yeah.
Um, and they feel like we hold the power of having children, making babies. It's usually our fault, but in reality, it's nobody's fault. It's a decision that was made between both,
Between
uh,
both.
and because there I know plenty of men who have been taken advantage of, and now they have children. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So So
That's
that
a conversation too. We might
that's
have
another conversation.
a Kai one day.
You know what I'm saying? That's another conversation. Okay. Let's see what else he's saying. I was definitely granted way more freedom than my sister. See, Isaac talked about he was granted way more freedom than his sister, which is true. Why is that?
It's so, and first of all, I just have to say it's so unfair. You know, I
Uh-huh.
did that with my brothers. Like my mom was lock and sinker. She was like, you can't go nowhere, none of that. But my brothers, they could talk about liking little girls at school. You know, she allowed them to have a different amount of, freedom. And I was just like, wait a minute. They could get people pregnant just as well as I could become pregnant. Because that was all that I feel like I got from my mom was like, you better not have sex and get pregnant and bring no baby in this house. And I was just like, but other than that, I didn't know anything about sex.
Jabu. And I don't know why it's like that. We have another one from Love. I think promiscuity was just prevalent, or just as prevalent in our generation as it is on the current adolescent population. I do feel that, as stated before, the information is readily available to them now. Yes, it is. Okay, child. Like, and it's readily available to me too. So rather than sugarcoat, keep everything real. I think it is important to talk about it as early as possible. It may vary from house to house because everyone's sexual curiosity maturity level varies from child to child, and which I wish there was a way for us to really navigate what that looks like. The
Yeah.
maturity. I think that also comes from like the actions of like cleaning up the house,
Yeah.
picking up on their own, doing their hair, washing underneath their arms and their private parts, all that stuff. It starts to show maturity. I
Yeah.
would say a safe age to start is probably 10 years old. Talk to your kids about perverts. Yes.
Oh, I think
Puberty.
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 Lovely. I love what he just put. And I agree 100%, 1,000%, actually. I think it should be literally as early as possible. I think I mentioned like about between 10 and 11, because not only is sex, like the access to it, so like easy, but it is being shoved
Yeah. Yeah.
like the kids' throats. Like if you look at the way that the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon has transformed, I remember watching those channels and like it was cartoons and stuff. And now everything is like, I don't know, it's about like teenagers and everybody's got boyfriends and girlfriends and sex. I feel like sex is just everywhere, just all in your face. And I don't think, the kids, there's no way to get away from it at this point, because even their favorite artist, you know, is half naked. Like everything is sex, 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 the music. So I think early as possible is the best thing, honestly.
I agree. I'm gonna, when I have some more kids, I'm gonna start talking at 2 years old. I'm joking. What do you think about mothers and their young teen daughters that have a continuous relationship? Um, is this working?
You're back now.
Okay. So what do you think about this question? I'm on now on the website.
What?
Can you see the question up on the
Yeah.
board? Can you see it?
Yes. You know, mother and daughter relationships can be very tough. It could literally lead like to extremes where like they're super close and then they're super not. And the only advice that I could give for that situation is one, to be patient. Because as a woman, a young woman matures, there's things that she starts to see differently, and she will start to, as she lives life, like my grandmother used to always tell me, she said, live a little longer. And the longer that you live, the more that you understand, or you have a better understanding of things and the way that even your parents, especially your mother, handled certain situations. I think with girls, it's tough because there's a level of independence that we want to automatically have as women that I can personally say I've seen the difference between myself and my brothers. And one, because my mothers allowed my brothers more freedom. So they were more open to talking to her, and like her dialogue was just so different. Um, Versus with me being a woman, it was just so strict. And I felt the need to have like my own mindset, my own independence. And so I would just say, be patient. Do your best to try to create a safe space, and maybe have a conversation with your daughter and say, listen, I'm here to listen. I'm not going to judge you for your thoughts, for the questions that you might have. And I would say the number one thing that we have to do as parents, and especially mothers, is to be able to apologize to our children when we handle situations
Whew.
incorrectly. Because I think when you are humble enough to apologize, it creates a safe space. There's so much, and I had to do that with my daughter. And that's something that my mom never did to me. And I remember growing up being angry about certain things, you know, and, I'm not a perfect parent. And so there have been times where my reaction was wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I know how like childhood trauma affects adults, which that's what my book is about, I realized that, what, I need to change the narrative with my daughter. So I was like, you know what? I can apologize. And I can say that it benefited our relationship so much when I was able to say to her, like, listen, mommy didn't handle this in the best way. This is the way I should have handled it. And this is how we will go moving forward. And I realized just from that, she felt more open to be like, oh, okay, my mom, she hears me, or she understands how she made me feel. And it created such a stronger bond, I would say.
I think that as a parent, I need to do better at that. I wasn't raised. My apology for my mother was like, "Are you hungry?"
Yeah.
Right? I made some food, or let's go to the park, let's go do that, and that was her apology, and that was our way of knowing that she was sorry. So I'm gonna do better at that. Not like I don't really have many moments where I have to apologize, but there are some times when I know that I made some off the wall decisions that I probably should have said something about. So thank you for that. Gary has another one. Growing up during the age of AIDS and HIV, I wish my mom was more thoughtful how I might have engaged in sex as a queer person evolving into adulthood. Um, Gary, I don't know how old you are, but I'm thinking that we're probably around the same age. And I'm not making excuses for your parent, but if your mom is a heterosexual person and if you are a queer person, that might be a world that your mom maybe wasn't even one maybe thinking that you were living in, and even if you was, she might not know how to address that situation, right? So I am a queer man. I think queer. I'm gay, and my son is what you've said by him to people. He's pansexual, and so this is new for me. So I'm even in the community, and I don't know how to. I'm learning how to parent and have those conversations and right things to say. I want to, but it's still a hard thing to do. So imagine if the information wasn't there for her back in the day of how to even address HIV or AIDS, or address having making love to a man or whomever you decided to make love to. Um, I want grace, and I tell my son, like, when I address things, I say he or she, and he says they. I correct myself and I say okay, they, because it's a continuous um, learning learning curve. What I would say, I don't know how old you are, but even if it's still something that happens now, share with your mom the importance of actually tackling those type of things and navigating the type of advice that you want to receive from your parent, because we don't always know everything. Like, we really don't. Um, yeah. Oh, but he said it changed as he came out, so that's cool.
That's good.
Um,
Good. Glad to hear that.
yeah. So as we were just saying, the difference between boys and girls. He went to prom 5 times, and his sister had to fight to
See?
go. Um,
See?
and I did go to prom every year of my high school career. It's definitely the difference. Talk to boys and girls.
Hmm.
Boys are encouraged,
Yes.
girls are discouraged.
Yes. Gary. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. I like that. Apologizing. So important for fathers and mothers. Yes, 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 yes. Accountability as opposed to apologies.
Ooh, yeah.
Gary, don't be coming for us. That was good, friend. That's true. Accountability.
Yes.
Accountability. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Taking that ownership, and that's what I mean. Like with telling my daughter, listen, I was wrong. You know what I mean? I could have reacted in a better way, so
Yeah.
there's no handbook for parenting, and my father even apologized. Yeah, it's tough, Isaac. I feel you. And that's why I wrote the book that I wrote, because there's so many things that happen in childhood in regards to our parents, and them not knowing how they would affect us. So I totally understand. Oh, we love you too.
Yep. We have extend grace to our parents. We have to. Yes, we have definitely have to.
Mhm.
They need it. I need it. Okay. But yeah, so this has been a really good conversation. Are there some parts that we did not touch? Let's see, real quick. I want to make sure we talked about it all.
Sure.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it all. We talked about it all. So this has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yvonne, I would love for you to chat about your book.
My book. Um, so I'm so excited about the book because I think Isaac mentioned it. So I fully believe that a lot of the issues that we deal with when it comes to relationships today, whether it's our relationship with ourselves, whether it's our relationship with our peers, or whether it's romantic relationships, a lot of the issues that we have is unaddressed trauma. And most of the trauma that we have comes from our childhood. Um, and usually wounds that are left untreated become an infection. So there's things that I talk about, like when people are people pleasers. Really, that comes from either abandonment issues, where maybe you had a parent who was not around for whatever reason, whether it was the mother or the father, and you felt like these um, important people in your life were never there, or they were leaving. And then so you tend to, as you grow up as an adult, you know, um, you don't want to feel those feelings again. So maybe you people please. Maybe you're the person who goes with the flow of everything, regardless of how it makes you feel, because you want this person. And again, it could be a platonic friendship or a romantic relationship, where you are being okay with things that are not okay, because you want this person to stick around, because of abandonment issues. So I go into that in my book. So first, one of the chapters is soul check, and it's really kind of a list of questions just to see, hey, how am I? Am I okay? Um, am I codependent? Am I a people pleaser? Do I not know how to say no? Um, and then I kind of take you through the steps of working through healing some of those issues, tapping into your past. It's an easy read, but it is at times in the book a heavy read, because it requires work. it requires looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing where you really are and getting to a place where you're able to unlearn all this learned behavior
Mm.
that you can have healthy relationships. And the most important, which I really go into in the book, is your relationship with self. That is the number one relationship that we need to take care of. We need to take care of us. I go in, there's a chapter on reparenting yourself, and that is about you being the parent that you didn't have, right? And so I'm really excited about the book and what it will do for people. I think this is a book that you can even give to a teenager. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's really about helping people on the journey to being healthy mentally and emotionally and being a whole person so that you can have healthy relationships, because I believe relationships flourish when you have two people who are whole, that come together. They're already loving themselves, and then loving each other is simply the icing on the cake.
Thank you, boo. I'm excited for the book. Did you say when it's coming out?
Yes, 11/11.
11/11. There needs to be a party and a celebration
It
on
will
that
be, because
day.
it's a Friday, so it's definitely going to
It'll
be
be a
a
turn up. Okay. Okay. I'm so excited. Listen, she has a lot of things going on. She's also a poet, y'all. She's just so
yes.
amazing. Thank you guys for having this conversation with us. I'm trying to see if I have anything that I want to brag about. Ain't nothing going on in my life.
Oh my
Uh,
God, you have so many things going on. Malachi hosts open mic night, and I can tell you guys, it is absolutely amazing at Jazzy's Cabaret.
you
I
better
think
go.
the open mic night is going to be Thursday, April 7th.
Oh, wow.
Look,
You
yeah.
own it. Okay. Yeah,
So,
I forgot. Yeah, I don't really shamefully plug, but why
well,
not?
I can do it. I can plug you, and I did. So I think you guys need to come out. It's amazing time. It's such a vibe. I love Malachi's voice. I love his energy. It's just a good time. And I believe it's the first Thursday of every month. So, check him out.
It is. Thank you so much. That happens at Jazzy Cabaret. It's called the Soul Lounge on every first Thursday of the month. And this month, next month in April on the 7th, we are featuring the vocal stylings of Timothy. His full name is Timothy McClure, and he's toured with the greats, and he's one of the dopest singers that I've met while I've been in Connecticut since I was an undergrad. So I'm excited to see him sing. It's going to be a vibe. Tickets are already selling, so try to get your stuff ASAP because it be lit. But I try to think, is there anything else you love to see it? Maybe one day we can stream it. I don't know. I feel like I am doing a lot, but I just can't think of it all right now. But maybe one day I'll share. But I love you guys. Thank you for having this conversation with Dr. Kreative and with Yvonne Lee. We really enjoyed it, and hopefully we get back together and we'll do some more conversations. If not, this was one of the best conversations I had in a long time. Thanks, Yvonne Lee, for being
Oh,
here.
thank you so much. And thank you guys for having me.
Bye. See you later. Oh, I gotta put the ending out. I always forget to do this, so let me do it this time. I gotta do the right thing. Pool party. Oh, back here, child. We'll see. I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna end it out now. Bye, everybody.